All right, everybody, welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Harding, and today I got Tanner Litchfield here with me. So he is, I'm going to call him Rookie of the Year, and we're going to learn a little bit more about him and stuff like that. But he's really killing it in the industry right now, doing really well. And so we're going to kind of learn about what he's doing and why it's working and you know what we can learn from it, you know, as both a real estate agent and and just people that are looking to buy homes and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and start with an introduction. Obviously, Tanner Litchfield, but tell us where you're from. Tell us, how long you've been doing this. Give us a little background on you.
Yeah. So, I met my wife at UVU.
Okay.
So I had some familiarity with Utah. Once I graduated college at UVU, I moved down to Seattle, where I'm from.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be my roots. Thought that was
Sure.
going to be the forever.
Yeah.
And then my wife was done with the gloom, and after a few more complaints, I just happy wife, happy life. And I had some buddies out here too, so it wasn't as dramatic as I'm making it. But then we moved out to Utah. So I moved to Utah about a year ago.
Okay.
So here I am.
And when you were in Seattle, real estate too, or what were you doing there?
Yeah, so I can dive into that side too. So I actually, out of college, sold to loan officers.
Okay.
I sold, list reports.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I worked.
I have list reports.
There we go. This is not an affiliate link. I don't work for them anymore. But so yeah, I worked for list reports.
Okay.
It was a startup at the time, and probably still is. But I was in the tech sales world, and I was starting to dabble in real estate.
Yeah.
Starting to learn bigger pockets, more on the investment side.
Sure.
And then kind of carried that tech sales world with me for a while. I worked for my family's company in the Seattle area. They sell technology to school districts.
Okay.
So my grandpa started that company, and working for family businesses, people warn you about that, and I learned my lesson. So still dabbled in tech sales mixed with investing in real estate.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I want to dive into this because it could take a while, but
You're good.
I went full-time while I was in Washington. So this was like probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
I went full-time as an investor in real estate and tried to be a wholesaler.
Okay.
And didn't fit my personality as much. Just that whole operation, ton of marketing spend, and tried that for a while. That was my last gig when I was in Seattle. Then when my wife wanted to move to back to Utah, now I needed to figure out what I was doing for a job.
Sure.
Because full-time wholesaler wasn't cutting it. And I was in an entirely new environment. So jumped into tech sales briefly for about 3 months, and almost like simultaneously I became an agent and was going to see how that went. And I was at Utah Life at the time in Salt Lake.
Okay.
Started picking up traction about the same time that the startup I was at was going downhill for tech sales, and thought, okay, second time's a charm. If I'm going to go full-time real estate, I really got to make it happen this time. So I went full-time as an agent, and that was May. I went full-time as an agent.
May of 2023?
Yeah.
Okay. So really just this year, less than a year then, kind of thing.
And I got my license February 1st.
Okay.
So
you're, so let's talk about that then. So obviously you have a background in sales, you've been doing stuff and really kind of sales, real estate related, different tech stuff and things like that. So that's, I would assume you've kind of built off of some of those skills. They weren't, it's not like you went from nursing to, this, right? So you're in that same field, but you've had a very good year so far in a year that's frankly not a good year for a lot of people, right? I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of people get out of this industry right now, both lender, real estate, title, even, just because there's less transactions. It's a harder market. So what, and we'll kind of divide this up again, I guess, a little bit, but how are you doing so well? What's working for you? Because you've been having a good year, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I claim for marketing purposes that I became an agent in February, and that's part of like my.
Sure.
But in reality, having the knowledge I have had with the investment side, paired with the knowledge I have in tech sales and learning how to manage a pipeline, I think like marrying those two allowed me to be as successful as I am this year. So that's a short version.
No, I like that. And I like the humility that goes with that too. It's like, okay, I've had a good year, but it's, it didn't really just start February 1st because you're giving credit to really that past history, which I do like. So then, let's just talk about, as far as the deals you've gotten this year, where are they coming from? Are they coming from networking stuff? Are they coming from, leads? Are they coming from the company you're at now? Where are these deals coming from?
Yeah, and that's a good question because it's shifted like entirely. So at the beginning, I'd say from February 1st till about 3 or 4 months ago, 70% of my business was Zillow.
Okay.
So provided by like the teams, like whether it's the Perry Group or Utah Life.
Okay.
So that team setting helped me out a ton. Now, it's funny as I look back and reflect on what those deals were. Now in the last 3 or 4 months, I'd say 80% of my business is self-generated investor clients that I'm helping source deals from.
Okay.
But if I average out every single deal I've done since February, out of the 23 that I've closed right now, the investor portion is still very heavy. Like even those Zillow leads that I was nurturing, a lot of them converted somehow into me helping investors.
Sure.
So
interesting. And so the investors that you've gotten that weren't from Zillow, are those from your old network and stuff like that? Are those from like social media? Those from where are those coming from? How did they know to call Tanner Litchfield, I guess?
Social media.
Social media.
Almost entirely.
Okay.
Which is cool because I've been doing social media for like 2 years.
Sure.
Like spinning my wheels and making reels. That's a rhyme, I guess.
Yeah.
And for so long, like even I always say this and it's true, but like my mom would make fun of me. Like I was getting like 50 views. Like, why are you making these videos?
Why are you wasting your time?
Yeah, exactly. And out of love, obviously, but now like 2 years later that I've been making content for so long, it's finally coming to a point where it's like the traction's unbelievable. So kind of going back to like it seems like February 1st, it's like I moved to Utah and I'm having all this traction, but in reality I've been spinning my wheels for a long time. So
okay. Which but obviously now starting to feel that success and so what you mentioned social media. So what things are you doing on social media that, like, is it just reels and different things like that? Do you are you on there talking to people too, commenting and networking? Give us some, I guess, of those things.
Yeah. So a lot of it has been reels in the past, and reels has been cool, like for Instagram and stuff. But in the past few months, I've really gotten a whole lot more clear on who my target audience is.
Okay.
And my target audience isn't as much scrolling on TikTok and Instagram Reels, but like the LinkedIn and Facebook written content has been doing a whole lot better for me because
interesting. Okay.
It seems that those high earners are drawn more towards written content than
Sure.
video. So
Than just a video and stuff like that. So really having a broad, so it's not that you're stopping reels, you're still doing reels,
yeah,
but you're recognizing that, hey, it's paired with other things here too, right? Because other people are going to see, okay. Do you ever run ads or anything like that, or is it all organic?
all organic.
All organic and stuff. Okay, awesome.
I think I'll run ads when I figure out how to do that, but
Sure. But for now, yeah, you're good. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Tell me about, you're at the Perry Group. Obviously, it's a very well-known group. They do really well. How has that helped your business, I guess, being there?
Yeah. I mean, I think number one is lead flow.
Okay.
What I'll always tell like new agents that reach out to me is, I think the number one mistake for new agents is they care so much about their splits.
Sure.
And they're worried about how much they're going to take home, but they're not realizing of like what is that brokerage actually doing for you.
Yeah.
So if they're taking 20% but they're not doing anything,
Yeah.
or if they take 50% but they're going to provide you a whole lot more, like so I challenge like new agents to really consider that. So lead flow is one thing, especially at the Perry Group, that I'm grateful for. I can be as busy as I want to be, it seems like.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason I can no longer source my own deals, I know I'm going to keep the lights on with the lead flow they provide. That's number one. Number two, and probably like the single-handed reason I'm still at the Perry Group is the amount of like killer agents around me.
Sure.
And not just like the agents, but who they're in touch with.
Yeah.
So expanding my network and always trying to learn from people who are smarter than me. So.
Gotcha. So just that mentoring, I guess, or even maybe they're not necessarily talking to you and stuff like that, but just when you see in successful people, that tends to breed success, right? If you're surrounding yourself with guys that are killing it, it's like, well, okay, I'm just as smart as that guy. I can do it too, right? I mean,
I'm a competitive dude.
right? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it is sometimes, right? And so, yeah, I know. Okay. Well, so then tell me, did they give you any training or anything like that? I guess, or just kind of, or did you need much training? I guess because you had already kind of had some experience, probably more than most first-time agents, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely needed training. Like
Sure.
I definitely needed training, like writing contracts, understanding a contract.
Sure.
Like
Sure.
I had done some off market, but those are my contracts that I'm having drafted by an attorney, and now I need to understand these contracts that we're utilizing. So there was definitely a learning curve. I started out at Utah Life,
Okay.
and Utah Life and the Perry Group, they both do amazing jobs, but they're like completely different in my opinion.
Sure.
The Utah Life is very, very structured,
Okay.
and I call it like the boot camp of real estate.
Okay.
So like a lot of what they taught me, like Utah Life, I still incorporate, and there was a lot I needed to learn. So
that was a good place for you to start then.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But then obviously you kind of graduated to where the Perry Group's at, and that's taken your career that step further.
Exactly. So yeah, and I was there for 3 months at Utah Life, and I did like, it could have been 4 months, but I had between closed and under contract like 6 million under contract or closed in the first 4 months, and I thought, why would I leave? Like, things are going good. I'm on a solid trajectory, and then and I was learning a ton from them.
Sure.
But a lot of the people I was learning from ended up going to the Perry Group.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And to me, like being surrounded by
Again, good
individual,
people.
yeah. And that's, so I converted over there, and now that I'm there, like there's a huge amount of benefits that, like there's a lot more flexibility, especially at the Perry Group, and they support me in so much more of my like investor endeavors.
Sure.
That I feel like I've really been able to spread my wings at the Perry Group, which has been huge. So.
Okay. No, I like that. Talk to me about a typical day right now. Obviously, walk us through what's a typical day in your life right now. Is obviously work life.
Yeah. When I read that question, I like rolled my eyes at myself because it's so crazy, and like the organization really isn't there. I
Okay.
feel like I'm so busy all the time,
Sure.
and I wouldn't say that's a good thing. Like,
Sure.
I feel like,
So you want to have more structure, I guess, is what you're trying to, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
or like an idea of what and then I feel like I get behind, and then I'm overwhelmed, and
Mhm.
I hired an assistant
Okay.
a few days ago who's starting at the new year, and I'm not expecting that to solve all my issues, but I think it's really going to drive me to add some more structure to my day and hopefully offload some of these busy tasks so I can focus on what I'm good at. So
Okay. So then I guess to answer that question, as far as what is your typical day life, there is not a typical day.
Okay.
Is that or
no, let me expound on that. So a lot of my days, let me actually try and answer it. So I show a lot of homes
Okay.
right now. That's a lot of my day, like dealing with my current pipeline,
Yeah.
searching for listings on their house or on their criteria, dealing with under contracts, like that's another beast in and of itself.
Yeah.
And putting out fires as they come up, whether it's the inspection, appraisal, etc. But really where I've been spending a lot more of my time and where I wish to spend even more of my time is like sourcing deals.
Okay.
I focus a lot on creative finance right now.
Okay.
And I feel like, that's my niche in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so calling on market deals to try and negotiate seller finance terms that produce a cash flowing asset in an appreciating market like Utah. So,
And I was just gonna, and maybe you just did define that, I guess, but define, because creative financing can go a lot of different ways. Obviously, as a lender, I have in my mind some things, but you just mentioned seller financing. Obviously, no lenders involved there. You already have stuff.
Yeah.
But is that kind of what you're saying with creative financing? Is you're trying to leverage the fact that that seller probably has a 2-3% rate, right? Is that,
So yeah, and hopefully that's not a bad word on this podcast.
You're good. You're good. No. Hey. You're
So,
good.
yeah, and there's two sides of creative finance that are the hot topics in today's world, and I think understanding those two sides is crucial for
Yep.
people.
Sure.
Because on one side, you're taking over a loan,
Mm-hmm.
not assuming, which
Yeah.
is different, right? You're
Yep.
taking over a loan, the bank's not aware,
Yeah.
you're transferred title,
Yep.
and you continue making those payments. There's a lot more risk associated with that versus the other side of creative finance where the seller owns it outright
Mm-hmm.
or close, and it's just you and the seller.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going behind a bank's back. I'm not saying I won't do this strategy, but if I do this strategy, if I sell it to a client especially, I'm going to say, listen, these are all the risks associated.
Sure.
This could be called due.
Sure.
There's other gray areas about this transaction that you need to be made aware of.
Sure.
And so that's one side. I've been focusing a whole lot more of dealing directly with the seller and having them be my bank.
Gotcha.
So-
Okay. And so a seller that has no loan on the property, they own it free and clear and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
But there is that other side of it too. You can still do seller financing, but just keep that loan and stuff like that. So that's good. Okay. Good. I like that because you're really trying to. It seems like there's a lot of proactiveness, I guess, in that of trying to create a deal where there was no deal before.
Exactly.
A lot of times we're looking at, well, okay, hey, financing is this, price is this. Well, that eliminates a lot of people. But now you're saying, well, hey, we can try to, change this variable so that we can get it in a better spot for people to buy.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're doing. Okay. No, I love that.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, and I think just adding to that, I've bought a lot of deals in my portfolio that are traditional, like
Sure.
the Burr method, just buy, rent, or buy, rehab, rent, rehab,
Yeah.
repeat, whatever the order is. It's a tongue twister, but so I did a lot of that.
Yeah.
And those deals have been amazing.
Yeah, it obviously works. It's a good method. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so now, kind of in this environment, in this market that we're in, it's harder for that to make sense for me as an investor.
Sure.
And so I think this seller finance is an excellent tool to have in my tool chest, but it's not going to be the forever tool. As soon as we've had some excellent news in the market lately.
Yep.
And so hopefully that'll open up that traditional sense.
Sure.
So,
well, what I like about you, and I guess what I would, any kind of listeners is you're thinking outside the box, and you're trying to find you're adapting to the market you're in, I guess, and not as opposed to just saying, crap, I can't do, and maybe this is because you're new, and so you haven't done things the way it always has been done because it's new. So you're brand new, right? I mean, I'm a little more seasoned. I've been doing this for a while. So it's like, we can't do it the way we've always done it. But you're quick to say, okay, well, what about this way? What about that? And I like that. I mean, because that's, again, really part of adapting to a new market, right? I mean, that's what you have to do. That's how you are strong and able to survive and stuff like that. So what's one of the biggest challenges you've faced, I guess, this year, just in starting your own business, essentially, which is a real estate agent is their own business, but what's that, any challenge, I guess, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the job's not easy.
Sure, sure.
So that, not understanding where my paycheck is coming from is daunting, especially as I am hiring an assistant.
Sure, you got money coming out now.
Exactly. So I'd say that's a level of challenge I've had. I think more diving into my everyday challenges is there's so many variables in this industry.
Yeah.
Especially working with clients. I would say there's been no transaction that's exactly the same.
Okay.
Which I love learning, and so it's exciting for me, but it's not easy. So adapting to these new scenarios that come up in a transaction is difficult but exciting. So
sure, good, okay. Do you have any advice for other people that are just starting off, in real estate and stuff like that? I mean, any advice for that new guy?
Of course. For me, I think looking back when I started and how what drove me into success this year is, number one, forgetting outside voices. If I let the headlines affect my work ethic or affect what I viewed as possible, I wouldn't be where I am today. I jumped into a tough market per se, and I think if I was used to 2021 and slinging deals and just waiting for someone to call me, I wouldn't be here where I am. But because I jumped into a market that sink or swim, that helped fuel me. And on that same thread, I think establishing why you're doing what you're doing is crucial. For me in this scenario, it's okay, am I going to go back to a W-2? Is that what I want, or am I going to figure this out?
Yeah.
On top of do I want to provide for my family? I don't have any kids yet, but I'm thinking about having kids, and do I want to bust my butt now and provide the life and the freedom I want for my kids now, or is that going to come in a couple of years?
Sure.
So I think establishing your why is more important than anything, or else when you want to sleep in, what's gonna get you, or what's gonna get you up, or if you want to make 5 more dials but you don't understand why you're making those 5 extra dials, then so.
No, it makes sense. I like that. I mean, and that why is important, right? I mean, I know when I was first starting off, that motivation, I mean, every year starts over and it's okay, I've made 0 so far this year. You know what I mean? And I don't know what my salary, quote unquote, will be, right? And so that's scary, right? That's super scary. But having that why of why you're trying to do it, and you mentioned you have a wife and future kids at some point kind of thing, and so and obviously the time you do now, you can start setting things up so that when you do have kids, obviously you can be involved and go to the baseball game, go to the parent teacher conference, whatever, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
To be involved and stuff. So
it's funny that you brought up the baseball game, because that's a sentence I repeat like more than anything, is I want to be 100% financially free by the time my kid's in T-ball.
Nice.
So that's
good.
It's
okay.
funny that you brought that up, because that's like a motivate. I think I'll always be working.
Sure.
But I just want to have the option to not have to. That's one of my driving forces. So.
Which it makes things a lot less stressful, because then you can just enjoy things as opposed to having, commission breath or whatever that phrase is, right? Where people just I can tell he's too hungry for it, right? It's like I don't want that, right? So, well, good. Well, okay. So, kind of switching gears into the market and stuff like that. Anything you're seeing? So obviously you're in Washington. You didn't do a whole lot of real estate up there, but like anything that makes Utah different, I guess, from a market standpoint, that you've noticed or seen?
Yeah, so I actually did quite a bit of real estate out in Seattle area. I just was not an agent.
Sure. Okay.
So I was heavy on the investing side. I did a few flips a year, a few wholesale.
Okay. So definitely involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think the biggest change I've seen, and it's kind of a two front, like on one side, I think the exit strategies in the Seattle area are a lot more mature in a sense of like what you can do with land. There's a whole lot more options. Like, for example, right now there's a dadu play, and like dadu for like in simple, it's a detached additional dwelling unit.
Okay.
Just for listeners who might not know what that is, but so essentially you can build a house in the backyard, you can condoize it, and sell it off as its own unit in a backyard.
Oh, separate. So you could have a house and a separate unit and do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you can keep it and rent it, you can sell it off, and then there's like a mini HOA between the two. It's kind of weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, but
interesting.
yeah, so it's
I know you could do that. You could have a separate dwelling, detached, but that's one parcel, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to separate.
So Utah allows it right now, but from my research, you can't condoize it and sell it off, and you have to be an owner-occupant to build it. So as investors, you're limited. So that's one thing that I've noticed coming to Utah is it's a little bit less mature in your exit strategies, but for me, that kind of makes me excited because I see how much opportunity is in Utah.
Sure.
Like, it's especially coming from Seattle and coming to Utah, trying to explain to someone maybe that's like a first-time home buyer, like the amount of growth we're seeing is not normal here. Like if you go to Seattle, you're not going to see like a subdivision, new developments on every corner in Utah County. Yeah. Like that's not normal. Like it's wild how much growth. Yeah. Vineyards, 600-acre development going in. Yeah. Drapers, 700-acre. I don't know the exact acres, but it's around there.
But some big developments and stuff.
Yeah. So like there's so many signs that make it obvious on the growth trajectory of Utah, and that makes me really excited coming here.
So Washington's more, there's not as many homes being built, I guess, or just not as much land, I guess?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think Seattle is still an amazing market. It's an amazing market for appreciation. Sure. The laws make it a little bit harder to own real estate there.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll leave it at that. But
Sure.
So I think Seattle has a solid play on appreciation. It's been an excellent market. Yeah. But as for like an exponential trajectory, I think people think Utah is already so expensive, but the ceiling is a lot higher.
Gotcha. There's more room for, okay. And is that in part just because of the potential growth? Is that different politics? From a owning real estate thing. I mean, why do you say that? I guess
I think it's both, right? Okay. Like I think like it being a landlord friendly state, there's a whole lot of people moving out of Seattle and California,
Yeah.
like at record-breaking. Well, I shouldn't say record-breaking because I don't know what the records are, but like.
But there's a lot happening.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
I got you.
And just like one example on that, this is like completely wild. I can't even believe like it's real. But this is a member of our investment community in Seattle.
Okay.
And he's renting out his property.
Mm-hmm.
A tenant is not paying. Like,
Mhm.
so that's normal there, sadly, is what we call squatters, is
Oh, sure. Okay.
they're living at the property, not paying.
Mm-hmm.
This person took another level and is renting his house out on Airbnb as a non-paying tenant, and the court cases are out 3 to 6 months.
No way. Really?
Yeah. So it's like it's sad. It really is sad.
And Washington's laws make it hard to get rid of that guy, I guess.
Exactly.
And so, whereas in Utah, it's a lot easier to. I mean, it's very landlord friendly, right? Like
Exactly.
you're saying and stuff. And so, which I see. That's why I like your perspective, because you're coming from a more liberal state, right?
Mhm.
And so, I think those that have lived here all their life, that's all they know,
Exactly.
and they just assume that's how it is everywhere, and it's not.
It's not. And it's like a huge, huge blessing that people need to realize. So that's one side of it. But then that growth too is like the density. I mean, I think Utah has like the perfect setup
Sure.
for growth, in a sense of like we are in between, like we're in a valley.
Yeah.
And so the land will stop being developed at some point, whether
Sure.
it's 15 years, 20 years.
Sure.
And at that point, it's going to be a density issue. People are still going to come to Utah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons to come to Utah.
Yeah.
And so I think between those two factors, it's an excellent market to invest in.
Okay. So keep investing.
Yeah,
Keep
exactly.
investing. Okay. What advice do you have for those that are trying to buy? So switch gears to to the buyers that are looking to buy, and what advice do you have for them? Maybe investor or personal, just obviously going to buy it for their own home and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Any advice for those guys?
Well, yeah, especially for like a first-time home buyer, I think it's easy to understand like that affordability is an issue, and I am like completely sensitive to that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that like owning a home is so expensive right now.
Yeah.
But if there is a payment that you are comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get into a market now
Mm-hmm.
where you can snag some equity and you have a lot more power in a transaction.
Mhm.
And I think you know this better than
Sure.
anyone, of like buying in a buyer's market versus, we use 2021 as an example. Like,
Yep.
what market would you rather buy in?
Yeah.
Would you rather have power or no power? So
Power sounds good.
Yeah.
I like power. Yeah.
exactly. And I think it's easy for people to look past that because of the sticker shock of
Sure.
their monthly. But if they're ever going to buy in the future,
Mm-hmm.
they can understand that there's always going to be a refinance.
Yeah.
So I know that's cliche, and agents talk about that all the time.
Sure.
And there's a saying like, date the rate or marry the
Mhm.
house. But
Yeah.
like, to me, I think you should be comfortable with your payment as
Sure.
a general. I don't think you should be overpaying and get you in a sticky situation.
Sure.
But if you can't afford that payment, I think it's a great time to buy. So
Well, I think you just said it right there. So if you can afford it, if it's within your price range, hey, you have the power right now, right? I mean, you can negotiate, 2-1 buy down, or extra money for closing costs to do this or that, or repairs on the home that are needed. I mean, it's you have power. I like that frame of mind, I
Exactly.
guess, from a buyer standpoint. What about somebody that's looking to sell their home? So if the power's in the buyer's hand, does it make sense to sell right now, kind of thing, I guess, or any advice for a seller of how to, retain some power, I guess, if we go
Yeah.
back to that frame. But
well, I will say like it's a hard time to sell
Sure.
right now, and I don't think there's any like sugarcoating that.
Sure.
Without sounding too salesy, I guess. But
Sure.
I think like having a good agent when the market is the way it is, when you have less power, is like that much more important. And I'll say, coming from the investor world, I always talked down on agents, and I probably still do, in a sense of like,
not all agents are created equal, so
yeah,
you're good. I'm
exactly.
with you. Yeah.
But I mean, and the reason I say that is just because I don't think they genuinely have sellers' best interest in mind.
Yeah.
And so that commission breath that you were mentioning before, I think
is real. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a huge issue. But I will say, like, having an agent, whether you hire me or another agent, I think it's crucial in today's market, because understanding how to get as many eyes on that property and understanding how to get as many people inside of that property can be like the difference of tens of thousands of dollars. So
sure.
And I'll add to that, like, if you have like an agent that understands seller financing, is crucial in today's market if the seller is open to that.
Gotcha.
And I'll like a real life example. I have a text in my phone from this client of mine. He was underwater on his on his home, and this is a case where sub 2 was like, it made sense. Yeah. And so the investor was fully aware of all the risks associated. And after it was all said and done, like, most people assume that the seller is getting taken advantage of. And like, from an investor point of view, this seller like sent me a text of gratitude. Like, I was gonna front 30 or 40 grand on this transaction, and you just netted me 15 grand. Like, I appreciate you. And he had interviewed several agents.
Gotcha. So
I think understanding the different tools like is crucial in today's market. So,
which I love, and hard markets. The benefit of hard markets, in my opinion, is you get, and you're not even a guy that's survived because you weren't in the market before, But like, so you're attracting, I guess, the market's attracting good, high quality real estate agents, and so the ones that aren't as good, are leaving, and the ones that are staying and offering, that's what I do like about capitalism, I guess, in general, is, people have a choice. And if you're not as good as this other guy, well, I'm going to use this guy, because I want to use who's good, right? And so I like that you're adding value. That's good. I'm sure that guy was very happy. That's a good, I like that real life, example and stuff like that. Any technology tools, things that you're finding just from a technology standpoint? Tech's always fun, any advances there, anything you're finding success with or using, that I guess from either, hey, I'm a realtor and this is helpful for me as a realtor, or hey, as a buyer, seller, this has been helpful. Just anything on technology, I guess.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think right now my business has transitioned into like the simplest form, which is what I need right now. And I think there's so much opportunity on the MLS of people that need to sell. So I'd say like the MLS is the tool I use most right now. And this is coming from me, like, where like 2 years ago I had a pretty heavy marketing spend on trying to uncover these deals. And now it's just a whole lot different. Like, there's people whose homes are sitting that need a solution. And so I've been targeting that. But I will say, like,
I know the market's going to change at some point, and I'll be getting a whole lot more creative. I'm also kind of worried about that. I'm like, wait, I found my niche, and I'm finding this, the snowball I feel like is starting to, and now rates are dropping. I'm like, wait, let me do my thing for a little bit.
I'm good at this part. Sure.
So, but I know it'll be good for the industry as a whole. So I'll figure out how to adapt. But this is kind of like a plug for my buddy actually in Seattle, who runs a company right now called CloseBot. And he
this is something that if I do start adding systems to my source, that he'll be the first person I call. And as I free up my time with my assistant, I'll be adding systems as well. But his business is called CloseBot, and he uses ChatGPT to do his outreach and to not fully, but to qualify these lead sources to a further degree, to the point where you're going on an appointment to someone who's willing to sell their house.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what he's doing over there is wild, and they have a lot of traction. Bryce, that's for you. But if I do add some systems, I think CloseBot is doing disruptible things in the industry. So
yeah, I like that. Well, good job, Bryce. Keep it going.
There we go.
Keep that. Well, and I'll go back to you said you're a little worried about the rate environment. From what I'm learning about you and what I've seen about you, my guess is you'll do fine, because I think you're a guy that does adapt very well. I mean, I think that's why you're having success now, is you've adapted to what's been thrown at you, and my guess is you'll adapt again. So, but doesn't mean there won't be some pain there too.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
But I mean, that's life, right? So, this has been very good. Any things we didn't cover, or any things that you'd want to kind of throw out here? Just in general, I guess, anything we didn't hit that you'd want to cover?
I don't know. I'll just add that I think success in general is a lot closer than a lot of people realize, and it comes down to the mindset shift of thinking it's possible. As cliche and tacky as that sounds, I think that would be my one thing to add. It's not that far away.
Sure.
So.
I like that you're real in that sense of hey, I'm just trying to problem solve. I'm trying to help people with the problems they have, and I like that you don't reek of sales, I guess, in the sense that sometimes realtors, unfortunately, there is that facade, I guess, and it's all and a little arrogance too sometimes, right? And I don't get that from you. So good job.
I appreciate it.
Well, Tanner, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
I've learned a couple things. Hopefully other people have too. So it's been good interviewing you and talking to you. So as always, thanks everybody for listening, and like and subscribe and all those other things that we ask you to do. And we'll see you next time. So thanks.
Perfect.